Lee Too Deep greets the audience warmly. "Thank you," she says, "for continuing to follow this journey." Her words carry both gratitude and quiet weight. Because this isn't just a story, it is a reckoning with love, abandonment, and the fragile search for belonging. For months, viewers have followed the unusual family formed by Too Deep, James, and Little Nee. What began as a chance encounter has grown into something extraordinary, the fragile weaving of a family not tied by blood but by choice. Yet today, that fragile bond faces a new question. James, with earnest determination, has suggested that Nee be reconnected with her biological parents, or at least given the chance to know them. It is a proposal that could reshape everything. Is James trying to push her away? Or is he trying to give her back something the world stole from her? The truth is more complicated. And the question hangs heavy. Will Too Deep agree? A childhood of shadows. Nee's story is not the kind a child should have to live. She was abandoned by her parents, denied by relatives, and left in a world that seemed designed to break her spirit. At the age when children should chase butterflies, play hopscotch, and hug stuffed animals, Nee was already learning the cruel art of survival. She learned to bury pain behind a smile, to laugh when she wanted to cry, to stay silent when her heart longed to scream. And then, fate, or perhaps the quiet miracle of human kindness, intervened. Two strangers, James and Too Deep, entered her life. They had no obligation, no blood ties, no reason to stay. Yet they did. And that choice, simple but radical, became Nee's lifeline. The bond of small things. James, a foreigner making his life in Vietnam, met Nee and felt something instant, unexplainable. He didn't shower her with grand promises. Instead, he played games. Hopscotch, for instance, where each stone toss carried laughter instead of fear. When she stumbled, he corrected her gently, never raising his voice. To a casual observer, it was just a man amusing a child. But for Nee, it was the first time she felt safe. Seen, valued. That small hand, reaching for a stone, became a bridge between a wounded girl and a man who decided she mattered. The shattering news. Yet life rarely offers uncomplicated miracles. One day, a government official knocked on James and Too Deep's door. He carried with him not hope, but a verdict. After weeks of searching, the truth was confirmed. Nee's parents had fled the country, drowning in debts, and left their daughter behind without a word. The official had contacted Nee's grandparents, who lived 200 kilometers away. Their response was cruelly final: they would not take her in. They insisted she was not their real granddaughter, just a bastard child, a foundling whose origins they disowned. James listened, devastated. But devastation did not stop him, fighting for her roots. He offered to pay for a DNA test. If the grandparents doubted her bloodline, let science prove otherwise. But they refused. Again and again, they shut the door. When Nee was asked if she missed her mother, she nodded silently, a child's quiet ache surfacing in her eyes. But when asked about her father, her reply was firm. No. Why? The official asked. Because he always yelled at me, she said with chilling calmness. He hit me. At that moment, James carefully took a strand of her hair. Not only for the test, but as a vow. A silent promise that someone, finally, was fighting for her. Holding a family together, life didn't pause for them. James still had a timber factory to manage, employees to pay, machinery that constantly broke down. Too Deep still rose at dawn, tending to chickens, planting vegetables, selling produce at the market. But Nee was never treated as an inconvenience. Too Deep taught her how to spot ripe avocados, how to greet customers politely, how to count change with small but confident hands. Nee, bright and eager, picked it up quickly. She wasn't merely surviving anymore, she was learning, living, healing. One day, they took her to see the home they were building. A modest house of bamboo, shaded and cool in summer, close to the market. It wasn't luxury, but it was full of promise. This will be your home, James told her. Too Deep added softly, you'll have your own bed, your own space, chickens and ducks in the yard. Warm meals and peaceful nights. For a child once discarded, it was more than enough. The law and the heart. Still, James and Too Deep didn't give up on the possibility of reconciliation with her grandparents. James sought legal advice, pointing out that under child protection laws, family members who refuse a child may face consequences. But the grandparents' resistance remained immovable. Perhaps something darker lay behind it, a hidden truth they didn't want exposed. Yet James pressed on. His fight was no longer only about Nee. It was about justice, dignity, and the principle that no child should be abandoned without consequence. Why they stayed? Why didn't James and Too Deep walk away? They had every reason to. They weren't responsible. They had businesses, debts, and exhaustion of their own. But they saw in Nee what the world had refused to see, a child worthy of love. They noticed her brave little smile, her small hands balancing avocados in a basket, her sweet, thank you, to every market customer. They didn't need legal documents to recognize her as family. They didn't need society's approval. They stayed because in a world where everyone else left, they chose to remain. Blood versus love. Nee missed her mother, but not her father. She understood something many adults fail to grasp. that love is not about bloodlines. Love is presence. Love is patience. Love is protection. Whether or not the DNA test was ever carried out, whether or not her grandparents ever relented, one truth was unshakable. James and Too Deep were her family, not because they had to be, but because they wanted to be. And in a world that once told Nee she was unwanted, two people stood firm and said, "You belong with us," and that made all the difference.